So let's kick off then with this start of the week and the start of the day New York session watch list creation um, by just having a quick look at where we're at. Um, let's go to a good place to start would be US yields and the US dollar, and we can start building a foundation for looking at the other currencies. So I hope everyone did well last week. Um, and you're enjoying this service where we look into the charts and potentially um, give you a basis for your trading day and some tips, and really to um, home in on the pairs that are setting up nicely for us to give us the most high probability, high quality trading opportunities. And by all means, ask me to look into a pair specifically, and I will do. Generally, what I'm starting to do now is I take your questions more so during this session and at the end of the day session, and then I put out a separate video where I simply run through the currency board in terms of the 3 day cycle and try to home in on those pairs that I think are looking quite hot for the day ahead. So, for instance, yesterday at around the Tokyo Open or just before, I put out a video that ran through the whole currency board and indices uh, with a directional bias to help you guys in London and the US. So essentially, what we're looking for here, that watch list was titled a dollar correction. So we've started to see that. We've made a low, lower than the close, lower than the high, moving into those longs from Friday. We had an initial blip up, and we'll go through that in a moment. But essentially, the dollar rally continued last week, and the top performers of the currency board were sterling, the Canadian dollar, and the Swiss franc, while the worst performers were the Norwegian krona. Not really something I look at, although it's correlated well with oil. We could put it on the board if anyone wants us to. The yen and New Zealand were underperforming. So just knowing that information is useful, that the pound, Canadian dollar, Swiss were the best performers, NOK, yen, and Kiwi the worst performers. That information in itself um, is useful in that if we're looking for a dollar correction, then the underperformers could be giving us the largest displacement from their prior uh, structures for us to target. So we can look at those in a moment. And a bit more on the dollar really is that it's posted a fourth straight weekly day. So this 3 day cycle, you can also apply it to the weekly cycle. So if we've got 3 weeks there of, which will show on the chart, uninterrupted gains, well, you'd start building your thesis. And if we're up in resistance, and this is an M formation, then perhaps this correction is on the cards. This could happen over a couple, a couple of weeks, and we could get a strong move lower. We've got data out this week, and the FOMC minutes, perhaps they could be the catalyst. There's a whole number of, I don't want to say less important, but lower tier data as well, such as housing, and we'll get federal district data start coming out as well. So, yeah, as I said, I mean, the key highlights really going to be July retail sales. They're expected to show continued strength. And then, of course, we've got the FOMC minutes coming up as well on Wednesday. And this will be around the July 25th, 26th meeting where the Fed hiked rates. Now, the market is pricing out a rate hike at the start of next week. next month. But there's still potential for something. Powell stressed that it will be data dependent, and we've got plenty of reports coming up. Um, the, the the general theme is that there is still a divergence theme, which could be supportive of the US dollar in terms of the central banks. Um, so upside is warranted for the dollar, but I think we're looking at a meanwhile correction scenario for the week ahead. So that's just a hunch. This can easily continue higher towards last month's highs in the Dixie, but there's an awful lot of length there built up. So for me, I think a correction is coming up. Um, so let's get into it then. I've been asked to look at the dollar yen cable so far. Dollar yen for U3 and Jaya cable. Bloodwish, you might be the only one not seeing the screen. I suggest disconnecting and reconnecting, trying that. And if you can't, if that doesn't work, I've just talked about the dollar here as the foundation for our analysis and thesis for the rest of the market, really. If we're going to get a correction in this US dollar, then we're looking for opportunities to short it versus risk. And risk would be, say, the Aussie, Kiwi being one of the worst performers last week, the indices, Aussie yen we can look at in that regard and so forth. Dollar Swiss, Euro sterling, sterling yen. So you're showing me your favorite currencies. Okay, we'll start at dollar yen then. So we'll move that up to here. Let's see what we were looking for. So still, this dollar yen is relentless. At the start of the week, it is bid. It is day 3 of the 3-day cycle, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 higher closes, higher lows, consecutive, in line with that run in the Dixie. Are we going to see a pullback? Now, we don't necessarily need to use the Dixie as a all-out indicator. The yen is only about 14% weighted to the Dixie, but it does give us a sort of a bedrock here for basing a thesis on. With the dollar yen, then, we are still very much front side of that nearer term trend line. Okay, so we're still on the front side, and we will be until my rule on this is that we need to see a break of the prior higher low, which would be in this case over here. Now, a bit of a tricky one that, because the higher low and higher high were both created on the same hourly candle. So that's not so common, but so be it. And as you see, it's holding so far. Now, if we make another higher high, then we can start bringing up that structure. And at this point, if we broke that now, it would be in here. But so the status quo is in place so far. We're testing this resistance area. We're coming up into that 145 handle. So nothing to do while there is no breakdown in structure. But we can be looking and monitoring for a break of structure, and then the bearish thesis is going to start getting conviction, and we can start looking for bearish structure to lean against, to position ourselves in for the short. So leaving that on the watch list. Not quite as high up, I'm afraid, because we need to see a break of structure. What we can do is set an alarm on that trend line. Sorry, not trend line. Horizontal support structure. So I need to see a break of it. So on the hourly, an hourly touch would be fine to alert us to it. Then we can move down to the 15-minute and make sure that it gets broken on a 15-minute basis, and then move it higher up on the watch list. Let's look at cable then for Jaya. Okay, sterling yen, that would have been a lovely buy limit entry down here. That came in a few hours after Tokyo Open. We got that drive down, and now it's continuing to move up. So that's what we wanted to see. Overall, let me clean it up. Well, so sterling was an outperformer last week, and it's looking like it's continuing in that path. We had pretty strong data, didn't we, come out of the UK last week? An upside surprise. Technically, that's the higher time frame. Technically, we are still front side of the longer term bear trend. Let's take off this volume profile stuff. It's getting in the way. Right, let's go to clean the chart all the way. I don't want to take off those drawings because they apply to something. I just can't quite remember what they were at the moment. But still on the front side of this bearish trend on the daily chart there. We're starting to sort of jam into these lows. Last week's lows and last month's lows are giving us support. And we're failing to extend that bearish impulse correction impulse. The impulse has failed to break last week's lows, last week's and last month's lows. It would be nice to see a break of trendline resistance, which would tell us that this could be failing. This correction could well fail to produce a continuation. More likely, if we get onto the back side of this trend line, we're looking for further support on a attempt lower to come up. Coming into the 4 hour. So that 4 hour M formation, neckline's been taken out. That neckline over here, and we're exceeding trying to break the shoulder, so that high over here. Initial target would be Friday's high on the upside. So this 3-4 hour drive into the lows has been wiped out in a 3-line strike. So I'm going to build a basis that these highs of that candle can be lent against as support. I'll just move that out of the way by mistake. So looking for a trend line structure break. Outlook is bullish. Looking for a move up. So coming into the US session here, what have we got? We've got this W formation, which is a bottoming pattern. This is the second bottoming pattern. So we can argue that this area here is likely to remain a support if there were to be a correction in, buying low within the day's range so far for a move up. We can argue that structure has been broken over here in the 4 hour. So that's starting to clear the path to move higher. So those highs were the lower highs before this low. So that structure has been broken with these wicks. What does that look like on a lower time frame? 15-minute chart. We've got a close on the 15-minute chart of this structure here, so we can even say that that has been broken as well. And we are still front side of the bullish trend for the time being on the day. This over here is the low. So if we get a break of that low here, then we'll be moving into a potential demand area. But you will want to see bullish structure before committing, if that is the way that you want to play it, or just let the market drop into a buy limit with your stop well placed and have your trading plan for the day. Okay, so that's cable covered, bullish. Dollar Swiss. So cable we can have up high. Good one to watch for the US Open. Remember the volatility, if there's going to be any, and more likely prospects of these trades working out, setups coming into fruition, the closer we get towards that Wall Street Open, sort of 8 o'clock New York time. Dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss. I don't have it for some reason on my board. It should be there. It's on. Okay. So with day 3, dollar Swiss. Okay, no markings on this. So day 3, we're looking for a move into this length that was built up over Thursday and Friday. So we couldn't get through, even though the setup was there on Friday for a move up. The furthest it got was up into 87.80s, and it was failing there. There was no day two continuation that came out of that thrust pullback, and it just died down. So the resistance remains there. It's coiled. We could get an explosive move out of this to the downside. There's no real structure here that's crying out at me for a short, but if this will continue higher, then we may get an opportunity to see the structure here broken down for the short. Um, right, we'll go over to Euro Sterling. Euro Sterling. It's not really one that I bother with much. A bit of a slow burner, but we can look at this. Dollar yen, sorry, Euro Sterling on the daily chart. It's been making a case for the upside in recent days, this week, last week. It's a strong correction. Last week's highs there gave us a strong correction on Friday. Nothing really jumping out at me on a daily perspective, nor a weekly. Potentially a move up. Yeah, nothing really jumping out, I'm afraid, for me to pinpoint for anyone wanting to trade Euro Sterling. A break below that pin there. Structure over here will likely open the way to lower lows into last week's lows, 85.80s. Got this price of balance on the hourly chart between this sort of order blocking structure over here. So if we mark the top of that as well as our target. So you've got that space, low hanging fruit to move into, stops below for a move lower. How that's going to play out, we don't know if it's going to play out at all. But if it were, I'd expect there to be a break of structure, potentially move back up into last week's closing level, that support area, build up of wicks and so forth, for the continuation into the trend line support. On the front side of this bearish trend. and a break of this 4-hour high on the 4-hour chart will build the bias for the upside, but on the lower time frames, if we do start to get this break of structure, then you're going to get uh, a lower high structural point that will need to break to start to build the bullish thesis and to test this 8630 level. Sterling yen for joy. Sterling yen. So the yen has continued to weaken, regardless of how low it is on the currency board. So in the pre-open, we were talking about a move lower. We got some of that at the start of the day, but we've just come straight back up. We've taken out last week's highs with a wick. So we're pulling in breakout traders here on higher time frames, which is good information. Because what we'll be looking to do is short into these longs that have been building up over the course of the day. The thesis that bulls will be trapped up high, and then we could start to see this downside thesis play out. So staying with that for now, keeping a close eye on this. We are breaking this structure. It's on the hourly chart. So this is the high, the old high. This is the new high. We broke that old high's low over here. So that's clearing the way for a move lower. Just cleaning up the chart a bit so we can see what's going on. Okay, so we've got many structures here. Let's just get rid of this now. For some reason. So that. Right, we'll give that a break of structure. With that dash line as well. This is the support structure that's been playing out. So bear that in mind for if we're coming in. If we move down to a 15-minute chart, it's now a broken structure as well. That trend line is broken, given the recent break of structure. Horizontal. Coming down to the 15-minute chart, we're decelerating in this rally. For me, the low is going to be here. The structural low that we need to break currently, based on these highs. And if we break that volume, that structure, then the thesis is this up here is all trapped, and we'll be looking for potential retests back into the volume area for a discounted price to sell at premium prices. for the blow off. Not to say that blow off can happen all in one day, but certainly to start building for today and Tuesday, perhaps. We can look at the ATR, which for some reason isn't on my chart. It should be part of this setup template. It's not there. Okay. What that is. So, I know what it is. 1 second. Either or. Okay. So we go to ATR. It is there. Oh, what's going on? It's just not showing for some reason. There it is. Right. 168 pips over the last 14 days on average. Sterling yen has moved 168 pips. The day so far, we've done around about 70, 80-ish pips on the day so far. That's not to say that any given day has to move that amount, but it just gives us a ballpark figure for the potential. It can fall shy or exceed, of course, that number. Moving over to the S&P for VV. That would have been a nice entry. Now, we're on day 3, so the thesis was at the start of the day that we're moving up into these shorts. That's what we've seen so far. So we've come up and broken Friday's highs. So that's a break of structure, clearing the way for a move higher. Yesterday, Friday's point of control aligns with the closing price. We've got imbalance all the way into here, so we might see a retest of in here, but find stability in and around this area. For the continuation up. So we've got a trend line, support, coming under pressure. We've had a break in structure to the downside. So these are the building blocks for a move lower to come up. So we call that a break of structure. So just to give us some sort of indication of what we might be seeing here. The targets on the upside. We've got Thursday's point of control in and around here somewhere. That orange line. might give some resistance. That area. In and around this area is a near-term target, clearing the way up towards last week's highs. Again, expect most volatility in and around the Wall Street Open. So keeping this on the watch list to see how this pans out for an upside opportunity on day 3 of the 3-day cycle. Good morning, Cynthia. Yeah, I can share we'll go to gold in a minute. We're just going to go through euro dollar, and these will be published on YouTube and in the channel about 10 to 15 minutes when we close down this. I'll publish it for those that can't see the screen nor hear me. Apologies again, it's something that we're trying to improve. Slow progress, but nonetheless, we will get there. And we're working out solutions for you along the way. So, Bloodwish, you wish me to do euro dollar. So, I will send you screenshots because I think you've got issues with seeing the screen. Euro, dollar. Euro dollar day 3 looking for a long squeeze. Started to see that play out in London, eating into Friday's shorts. Friday's highs up 110.50-ish. No, 110.05-ish. For an upside target, the point of control last Friday up into those peak formations in the 109.90s. So that's the target area for the day ahead. The ATR on the euro on any given day is around 75 pips. Today, so far, we've seen about 35 of those pips. We are easily breaking structure on the upside there, pulling right back into those longs. This W formation is a bottoming pattern, can't say it. So we've had that wick below last week's lows, breakout traders trapped, fast move up, back into those longs, bottoming formation, being grounded at the point of control of the day so far, in and around last Friday's closing price. Could be support for the day ahead to lean against, start looking for bullish structure. We've now got a bearish trend line in place that we want to get through. Ideally, we want to be on the backside of that before entering longs. On a lower time frame, such as the 5 minute, got a nice displacement here for the price to move into and start building the bullish thesis for the day ahead. So there is the, let me put a squiggle on this. So we're looking for break above the trend line resistance for a move up. So that's Euro going into the chat on the chart. Again, this will be in a video that will be published shortly. Cynthia, we can now go to gold. It's day 2 on gold. So prior analysis here on the chart. So obviously now resistance. So gold. Day 2 bullish correction was the trade plan pre-open. So that's worked out so far. We are still on the front side of the bearish trend on the longer term charts. So go to the daily chart, let's look at that from the top. So front side, and we're looking for a break of the trend line. Day 2 bullish continuation. We closed up on Friday, and we're looking for that to continue at the start of the week. So far, so good. One 1920 4-hour highs from Friday is the initial target. We are building a structure in and around last Friday's closing price, that red line. Between there and the point of control on the day appears to be structure, well, support area for the time being. So here and here, that wick on that candle is filling in that structural point. We've taken out these highs with a wick on the 1 hour. So that can be classified as a break of structure. Moving down to the 15-minute chart. Well, we didn't actually get a 15-minute close above that. Really what we wanted, but it's a strong impulse, a strong displacement. It's been filled in, bumping along. On the 15-minute chart, we can argue that rather than this structure being broken, we had this one over here, that high. Well, in fact, the low came off of here. So this, now this has a whole close above it. Okay, so anyway, we've got resistance broken down, bullish trend building, targeting the trend line, trying to get on the backside of that, prospect for a move up into last Friday's highs, 1920. The daily ATR has been in and around $18. Let's check that. Yeah. So far today, we've seen $6 or so. So not in anticipation of fireworks really on a Monday. Really just a continuation of where we left off on Friday, which was sort of consolidation really, jamming into these lows, up into this resistance. Monday, potentially trying to build a case, a bullish case for the rest of the week. Creeping out of this trend line perhaps today, at least testing it, maybe coming up into Friday's highs. That'll bring us up into a ballpark $10 move, $11, touch above for $11, $12. On this 1 hour chart, we may have a test of this shoulder high. Stopped in and around there. 1922-ish. So I'm going to post that chart, and then if you come back and look for the video, Cynthia, or anyone else looking at gold, looking to get long low for a move up. Okay, screenshot. So that's a screenshot there of the 1 hour chart. So guys, many people continue to ask if this will be recorded. Definitely. Unless I forget, but all of these watch list creations are recorded, and I'll post them in the Discord and on YouTube. So guys, if you can't see the screen, as I said at the beginning, try reconnecting, coming out and reconnecting. Yeah, it's working for some. You might have to do it a couple of times. Yeah, audio poor, can't see the screen. Getting asked here about retail sales. I was reading that we're looking for a firm number. Dollar supportive. Right, guys, we'll wrap this up then. So those are the pairs that you've requested. There are many more on the watch list that we haven't gone through. What I'd suggest is if you want to see analysis of those pairs, I did a pre-open analysis in Asia yesterday before going to bed, and that will give you a basis. But in conclusion, this is a day that we're looking for a bearish correction in the US dollar. We're getting that pump up in the earlier part of the New York Open. Will that be the pump to set us up for the dump? Is that the last ditch effort for the day? Have we seen the high? It's the question to be asked. We don't know. If we have, then this is going to give us some beautiful setups across the board for our bearish dollar on the day thesis into the pairs that we've just been looking at, and we'll wrap it up. So there will be recording. I'm going to get on with that now. Tried 8 times, worked on the 9th. Okay. All right. 9 times a magic number. Have a great day ahead, guys. See you in the chat room. Just got a question coming through from Felipe. I'll just wait for that. Do you want me to hang on, Felipe, or shall I? disconnect now and work on the video. Okay, thanks to you, Felipe, as well. Thanks, Joy. Thank you, everyone, for being here. All right, and we'll do one at the end of the session as well. And again, there will be a recording of that and a subsequent watch list creation for Tuesday.